They just have to worry about Cleveland. I'm not worried about the choke artists
Why
in
aren't you
Toronto.
worried about Toronto?
Because I've seen them in the playoffs the past 4 years, and they've choked every single time. Their two best players shy away from big lights. They don't come up. They choke. They're just choke artists. That's what Toronto is.
Okay, we got to wrap this up.
Before we move on to All-Star Weekend, you talked about the Toronto Raptors.
Oh, yeah.
And you told me that there were some people that disagreed with
There's a lot of people that disagree with you.
Camera?
Oh, he loves this one shot.
If you are buying stock in the Toronto Raptors, you
now.
are a fool. They are fool's gold. They will disappoint you. Don't do it. Do not do it. They're just going to choke in the playoffs like they always do.
The thing about Toronto is, though, they're amazing at home. I think they're 24. I have it here. They're amazing at home because you got to travel to Toronto. Yeah, if they get the number 1 seed, that benefits them. They are not a good road team. But,
but they still will fold because there's 2 star players. Whenever in the playoffs they get hit in the mouth, they fold, they disappear, they just become a shell of themselves.
So Pedro's marking the time code on all these, and whatever happens, we're gonna replay all this stuff, and you're either gonna look like a genius or you're gonna be the fool.
I've seen it for the past 5 years. Mm-hmm. They've had numerous times where they were the favorite and they just folded under pressure, and every time they play Cleveland, they even fold more under pressure. They're like the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hello and welcome to After the Whistle. I just got a surprise. I didn't know that intro was coming. We have a new nickname. First of all, I'm Brian Dorrington, your host, along with, he wants to be called the Oracle today, Orca Mukala Kumbungo. And then we have our new co-host, intern, slippery Steven Pafume. I like alliteration here. I usually go with marvelous or something, but he wants to be called the Oracle today. Steve, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, then we'll get into that crazy introduction we just had.
Well, I grew up in Billerica, same time as you, actually.
Yes.
I just finished my freshman year in college. It was actually really interesting to see kind of like different ways like media's been working. So it's also a great opportunity to be here with you guys, working on like different like ways to do sports shows, news shows, different ways to look up, learning different cameras and all that. So.
And you're a sports fanatic, right?
Yes.
I know your family. You grew up in a big sports family.
Yeah.
I played football and basketball with your brother, so. He's going to be a good addition to the crew. Now let's talk about Mukala. You're that guy that always likes to be right, aren't you? I mean, he sifted through hours and hours and hours of footage just to get those clips. That must have been like an entire day's work.
It took me 30 minutes to get those clips.
Oh, 30 minutes to get out of here. It took you for a long time to do that research. But okay, I'll give it to you. Go ahead, do your little bow, do whatever you want to do. Give the spiel.
As the great urban philosopher once said, listen to me now, believe me later on. I try to warn the people about the Raptors. I try to warn y'all about that team in Canada. Don't trust teams from Canada. Number 1 rule when predicting sports, don't trust any Canadian teams. And once again, those baby dinosaurs, they saw LeBron, they wet their pants. Their 2 best players decided to go hide under the bed. It was like they saw the big playground bully come in and they just ran. And it was shameful.
We got to get a psychologist on this show to really explore where this hatred of Canada comes from Mukala. I don't know if you've watched any of our previous shows, but he does not like the country of Canada. He doesn't like their food. He doesn't like the way he hates their accent. But these Canadian teams, I'm telling you, there's something there. We got to get a psychiatrist. If there's any watching, you can come on in. We don't have any money to pay you, but we'll give you promotion.
We're just going to start.
Let's just jump right in.
The Cleveland Cavaliers made quick work of the Toronto Raptors. People were saying a lot of analysts were picking the Raptors to win it. They said this is going to be the year the Raptors get over the hump. And Game 1, pretty much, after Game 1, the series was over.
Yeah, you texted me, you said the series was over right after Game 1.
Yeah, I told you right after Game 1 because they had a big lead. They had so many chances to close out that game, and they just could not do it. They made dumb mistakes. LeBron was doing whatever he wants. Once again, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, they did not show up. They were scared. They were timid. They were just, the people we see in the playoffs all the time. They don't come up big. And once again, it was a quick 4-game sweep. The Cavs got a week rest, and Now, the Raptors, they need to do some soul searching. They already fired their coach today. So, I mean, that whole organization got to make changes because I believe they got rid of the wrong person. You got to look at those two players, though, their backcourt.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking before the show, who's going to want to go to Toronto as a destination city? You can't, they do have, those are their biggest names. You can't just get rid of your stars and not replace them with other stars. So it's going to have to do a draft pick trade and maybe a rebuild, what's going on in Toronto. Let's get on to, I guess we can go into Cleveland versus Boston. Steve, what are your initial thoughts on that series?
I feel like this is actually going to be a great series. Before the show, I was actually looking at highlights from February of like how they kind of like different matchups and everything.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a big difference without Kyrie. We all know that.
Yeah. But
the way the Celtics have been playing this playoffs, it actually I've loved what I see. Jason Tatum, Terry Rozier, like they both been like stepping up. Jaylen Brown,
yeah.
Like
Al Horford's been great on defense. He's been a leader.
He made, I believe it was like 3 consecutive plays. There were 3 big plays down the stretch in Game 7 against the Sixers. It was a defensive play. Then he got a switch. I think J.J. Redick was covering him. He put him in the post and scored, and then he made another offensive play. So Al Horford, and he utilized, he kind of kept Joel Embiid at bay because he was outplaying him for the majority of the series.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find the clip where you said that you're never going to say anything good about Al Horford again. I don't know the exact
I said I'll
words.
never say anything bad about Al Horford again.
That wasn't
no,
one. No,
I remember that clip. I said I won't say anything bad.
Okay, we'll see. I have a different memory of it.
Because I said he sucked.
Okay, that might have been it. Either way, but he is a hot and cold player. He can be frustrating, so it's not just you. A lot of times, some people, they call him Average Al. Yeah. A lot of the times, he can play out of this world like he did in this series.
I think he's done a big impact for Boston, though, this whole season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He's been shooting all around. One thing I really like about him, though, is when he shoots, though, he doesn't stand there like a lot of the players. Like, he actually goes back for the ball, and he will fight for that ball until it's, dead.
To Al's... one thing about Al, he's played out of position his entire career. He's a natural power forward, and he's been playing center his whole career. Mm-hmm. And you've seen times when he's played power forward, he's actually had a bigger impact on the game than when he has played center. So it's he's been out of position. So this series I'm looking forward to the Celtics and Cavs. Jason Tatum, seven straight games of 20 points, over 20 points.
And he's only 20. How do you come out of that? Like
the ceiling for these guys is so high for Brown, Rozier, and for Tatum.
Yeah, so this matchup against Cleveland is going to be good. And we go off to the West. You guys are two of you all in favor of the Rockets.
I didn't say that.
I don't know. I'm
on the fence.
I did.
Steve's heavy on the Rockets.
Brian was leaning towards the Rockets.
You're heavy on the Golden State. I wasn't. I was just adding some kind of counter argument. I will make a prediction, not this show. I'll make it after maybe next week. After I see how some of the games play out.
After game 2,
I don't want to be wrong again. I don't want to be wrong again. All right, let's make a case. Who wants to start first on why you like the Rockets and why you like the... Why don't you go first, Steve?
All right,
you're the new guy.
Looking at both teams, you got 2 dangerous 3-point teams. Mm-hmm. Just right off the bat, you can already tell. Curry, Harden, Chris Paul can shoot anywhere, really. Klay Thompson. The reason why I want Rockets, though, I'm not taking anything away from the Warriors. Great team all around. Without Curry, they've shown that they can still do stuff, without him. But with the Rockets, with Chris Paul and James Harden, I want to see Chris Paul get this ring. Mm-hmm. He hasn't got one yet, and he's a great point guard all around. I'm going to say this right now. Pete, you guys can disagree with me. I feel like he's living up to kind of what Allen Iverson was. One of a great point guard, didn't win any championships or anything, but I feel like with the potential of the team he has, I feel like he can step up and they can win.
Yeah, I don't know if he's on. I mean, Iverson was a better scorer, I think,
yeah.
but
Well, Iverson
I don't think
was
those
asked to do more.
What's that?
Iverson had to score.
Yeah, he was their one guy.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a terrible comparison. Okay, so that's the case for the Rockets. Mukala, to your case for the Warriors.
Well, the Warriors, number one, they're the defending champs. This whole season, the regular season, probably after the All-Star break until the end of the season, people were doubting them. They were saying they weren't going to make it past the second round the way they were playing, but the playoffs started, and they reminded everybody why they are who they are. And they did it without Steph for the first round, and then Steph came back, 28 points the first game right off the injury, didn't miss a beat. So I think the Warriors, they just have more experience and they have more diversity in their offense. The Rockets, we're shooting 50 plus threes a game. And if that doesn't work, we don't have a backup plan. That's why they lost that one game against the Jazz. They were shooting threes. They weren't making them. They didn't have a second option. If you look at these two teams, okay, you got Steph and Kevin Durant. Those two guys, they could get their shot whenever they want. Chris Paul and James Harden, they could get their shot whenever they want. Who's the third guy on that team that can get his shot whenever they want? Who's the fourth guy on that team?
Well,
Klay Thompson and Draymond Green are two guys that can hit open shots consistently. Klay Thompson's probably the second. He's the second best shooter in the league.
Okay, but that's not all it's about. I mean, you got Clint Capella, who's a center. Who are the Warriors going to put on Clint Capella to get the rebounds and his points down low?
How's he going to guard the pick and roll, though? Clint Capella, they put him in that pick and roll. He's not going to be able to keep up with Steph or Durant when they put him in that pick and roll. Like the Warriors, they know your weakness and they'll exploit it. And Clint Capella and PJ Tucker, those two guys are going to get exposed because one, they don't have the size or the quickness to keep up with any of the guys on Golden State. So Golden State has an advantage of everything. Maybe the Rockets have an advantage on the bench, but I don't think so because all their bench players do is shoot threes. So
I'm hearing some interesting cases from both of you guys. Maybe I'll decide at the end of the show who I'm going to go with.
Decide
I'm waffling right now.
The thing with Warriors,
follow up? Yeah. What's your follow-up?
Their defense, they get sucked into dangerous plays. Like if whenever they're on defense, I see them get sucked to one side and they leave wide open guys on the left side and they can't get there quicker. And they also get aggravated so easily. Like if you watch Durant, he gets so mad so quick, and then he kind of loses focus of the game for a little bit, and that messes the team up a little. And I feel like they make a lot more mistakes when that happens.
Well, I think they do more. They move the ball better than Houston, and also big game James Harden. He's when he gets to this stage, he has a history of not showing up. Game what was it? Game 5, he was 7 for 22 against the Jazz in the closeout game. So. I mean, James Harden, if he doesn't step up and have a big series, it's just going to, that whole thing about him of not showing up in big games or big times in the playoffs, it's going to continue.
Okay, so now let's get to how many games, real quick. 6 games? Yeah. So Warriors in 6? What do you think?
I see 6.
All right, and we didn't make predictions yet on the Celtics Cavs. We went over that. Who are we going with?
I didn't put that footage up when I said the Celtics in 7 back when we first started this show, so I'm sticking with my guns.
So you're going to stick Celtics in 7?
Celtics in 7.
Okay.
I'm saying Celtics in 6, depending on how Celtics play. If Celtics don't come prepared, they will lose in Game 5. But if they do, I feel like they will win in Game 6.
Okay, I'm gonna be the heel here. I'm gonna play the heel, and I want the Celtics to win, but I just don't think that they have that superstar person to go up against LeBron James. If it was Kyrie, it would be a different story. It stinks that we miss out on Kyrie versus LeBron, but LeBron in the playoffs averaging close to 40 points or 40 plus. I just don't see it, so I'm going to say Cleveland in 6.
Boo!
I know,
Celtics in 7.
But I
want
to be right on something for once.
I'm going to predict the finals right now.
I'm going to be. Okay, let's go.
Celtics win, and Warriors win. I see Celtics winning finals. If Rockets win, Celtics win, Rockets win. I feel like Rockets, if they make it, they will win the championship.
Okay. Celtics are winning the NBA Finals no matter who they play. If they play the Rockets, they'll go 5 games.
The Celtics are going to win the NBA Finals.
If by God's grace Houston makes it to the finals and they're playing the Celtics, that thing will be over in 5.
Wow. Okay. Is this wishful thinking or is this actually sports and
actual factual?
Okay. All right. This is interesting. We got here. Let's talk to. I know we got some other things to talk about, but first let's just cover real quick. Brad Stevens. The news was they had the coaches poll voted for the best coach in the league. This isn't the official coach of the year that the journalists vote on. Yeah, this is the one that all the coaches associates vote on. Brad Stevens did not get one single vote for best coach of the year. Terrible. Just terrible. What do you think about that?
That is a damn shame, especially what he went through, what this whole team went through this season. This team shouldn't even be in the conference finals.
No.
They should not be in the conference finals. And for him, they got the 2 seed. They had all season they were fighting for the 1 seed, and for them to get past each round. And I don't think they were favorites in each of the rounds against the Bucks or the Sixers. I think people had the Bucks winning and the Sixers winning. So I mean, he utilized all his players. If you look at the way he's coaching and the way they're playing, it's like, they haven't missed a beat. It's like everybody knows their role, and what's more funny is the guy that won it just got fired. So
yeah, he just got fired. I think it's a lot of jealousy. A lot of people are tired to hear the Brad Stevens genius thing. You know what I mean? I think that's part of this. Steve, what do you think?
I mean, ever since he got hired, you can see a completely different step in Celtics. Like, I feel like they become closer as a family. Mm-hmm. They work so much. They work so much better.
They made the playoffs each year, right? With him.
I think so.
Yeah.
They playoff each year.
If you look at the practices and press conferences, you can tell they all respect him for not just as a coach but as a friend. He's always there for if someone's hurt, he immediately drops something and he will make sure they're okay. He will make sure this teams is his number one priority. You can look at other coaches, some of them I feel you can tell they kind of focus on one player at a time.
Yep.
He focuses on every single player each time, I feel like.
Yeah, and I am going to make a prediction that when it's when it comes out the journalist coach of the year, he will win that coach of the year. That's really the one that matters. Yeah, all right, let's move on to hockey. Disappointing for me, for all of us from Boston. The Bruins lost, and they lost in sort of a devastating fashion. They dropped 4 games in a row to the Lightning. I did not see that. I predicted the Bruins would win the Stanley Cup final. I'm glad you didn't bring that up and show that.
I thought they were going.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw them dropping 4 in a row. I think
especially after game 1.
Especially after game 1. A lot of the problems were with Tuukka Rask.
Yeah.
He got outplayed by Vasilevsky.
I don't think it was just Rask.
No, it wasn't just Rask.
If you look at Chara, he didn't really step up as he should have. He didn't. Game 2, he wouldn't he couldn't hit anybody. He wouldn't dive. He would just stand there watch a puck. No one would play defense to help Rask. But Rask was a huge factor.
McAvoy was big in that series. He was coming through with some big hits for a small guy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's getting old. Chara is getting old.
Yeah.
You can't put it all on Rask, but I think he was outplayed by Vasilevsky. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. And Tampa Bay just had more firepower. Yeah, they're deeper. That's really what it came down to. It's their depth and their firepower.
That was one thing we talked about before the series, guys, about Tampa Bay's firepower on offense because them guys can score just like that. And it was especially what was the closing game? Didn't they score real quick on the Bruins? Mm-hmm. What's with Marchand licking people?
Yeah.
What's with that?
He's the biggest little troll in the league. He loves getting under people's skin.
The licking, though.
I know. That's new. I've never seen that before.
But, hey, the Bruins look like they got to make a lot of changes this offseason. I think Tuukka's going to be gone because
I don't know. Who else is out there?
I think he might be because the criticism he's received this season, especially in the postseason, especially from fans and everybody. I don't know. It seems like it might be his last day.
He's got a big contract, though. I don't know who's going to take it on. The good news, though, is the Bruins do have a great group of young people. Yeah. Donato, DeBrusk, Heinen, McAvoy, Grzelcyk. So they got at least five young players to build around. They've got some youth. They weren't supposed to be here this year. So things are looking bright for the Bruins.
Future's looking bright. Other NHL news, we're going to run through these ones real quick.
Okay, sure.
Ovechkin finally got over the hump. The Capitals, they finally made it past the second round, and they actually beat the Penguins.
Beat the Penguins.
That was a great series. Their defense was phenomenal in that series, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
This might give them momentum for, they might, for that Stanley Cup push. I mean, just getting past the Penguins was a big deal for them, especially for the city, the whole Washington, D.C. sports scene, because no team has ever gotten this far before.
Yeah, it's Ovechkin's first Eastern Conference final, first finals ever.
Yeah, so this is big. So this matchup against the Tampa Bay, this was intriguing. Who you like in that matchup, Capitals and Lightning?
I think the Lightning's just too deep. I mean, Braden Holtby's been playing great as well. I always think it comes down to goaltending. Vasilevsky's playing great. I think that it's the depth of Tampa Bay. They've got a few all-stars on that team. They can roll out all the lines. Their defense is much better. I think it's probably going to go 6 games, but I like the Tampa Bay Lightning. How about you, Steve?
I feel like Capitals.
Wow.
Like, I mean,
that momentum.
It's kind of like they got like that push under their skin now. Like, they just beat the Penguins like 4-2, and they didn't kind of slow down when they were winning. They kept going and they kept pushing more and more. And you see this with other teams. Like, when they start to get the lead, they kind of like push back. They bring in like players off the bench that like haven't played yet. Capitals, like, I feel like they kept it like equal. They kept like, when players were getting tired, they took them out, gave them a rest, put in healthy players, and then right when they were back, put in the starting lineup. Like, they wanted the series as badly as they could, and that's what happened. They won because of it.
And then now the Western Conference, we got the Jets in Vegas.
What a story Vegas has been.
My God.
I mean, who would have
Expansion
predicted this expansion team in the conference finals?
Yeah. I'd like to see them win.
They're definitely. I would love to see them win. Now, I think everybody is behind them.
Imagine how Vegas will be if they make it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh man, Vegas would be crazy, and they'd have every right to celebrate.
Yeah, that'll be like the destination spot, and the parties. I don't think people already don't sleep in Vegas, but I think it'll just be even more wild over there.
Yeah, the community has really embraced Las Vegas, and especially after we kind of forget about it, but after the big Vegas shooting, they've kind of needed something to rally around, and they got this brand new hockey team that's where nobody expected a first-year expansion team to be.
Yeah, and look at all the players; they're all like really young too. Like, I actually don't think. Did they have any players that are like over like 25-ish?
Yeah, they have some. I think James Neal's older. I think Fleury's probably older too. But they do have a lot of young players. They got a mix.
Hey, you need youth in sports.
Oh, yeah.
And did you watch the last night's game, Jets and Predators, Game 7?
I did. And Pecorine ends up getting pulled.
Right, like in the first.
You know, in I believe he's a Vezina Trophy finalist this year. One of the premier goalies. It was just a collapse. Again, I was predicting Nashville to go to the finals against the Bruins.
That's because you don't want to watch. You don't want to stay up late to watch anything.
No, because I don't want the Winnipeg games. It's going to be so late. You know, but I guess it's good to have some Canadian, a Canadian team in the mix.
Freaking Canada.
They're looking good. See, again with this Canada thing. But the Jets, they are looking good. They're a legitimate team. They've got a legitimate goaltender. I'm rooting for the Golden Knights in this one, but something tells me the Jets are going to take this in 7 games.
Yeah, Final Four in hockey. It's going to be fun. I think I might actually. No, I'm not. No.
You'll watch the highlights?
Yeah, I'll watch the highlights.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about our favorite topic, the NFL.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah. So quick break, and we'll be back.
You've always protected me. Every day of my life.
There you go.
Thanks, Dad.
I'm older now, but I still need you. Prescription pain pills, heroin. I know kids are getting addicted, and people are dying. Can you still protect me?
You can protect your teen. Teens who talk to their parents about opioids are less likely to misuse them. Find out what you can say.
I was 18 years old. I had it made. Until I went to a college party, and I thought I was immune to temptation. That's when reality struck. Quite literally. If you choose to slowly end your liver, don't let it be your life that ends early. Be responsible.
Hello and welcome back to After the Whistle. I think we might have had a little bit of technical difficulty. You might have seen some extra waves and smiles by Mukala. If that's the case, enjoy.
That's just Paige's way of just trying to another way for him to call me a diva.
Yeah, that's what he is. He's trying to say, oh, Mukala always wants to FaceTime, which is true. We all did watch the very intro at the beginning where he edited himself into a 5 or 6 minute clip, it seemed like.
I was just trying to prove to y'all how I'm the Oracle.
He is. That'll be your new nickname. Okay, so now let's talk NFL. NFL Players Association filed another collusion agreement, this time on behalf of Eric Reid. Actually, did the Players Association file the one for Kaepernick, or was that private? Okay, so now the Players Association is getting involved in filing a case on behalf of Eric Reid, claiming that teams are colluding against him to keep him off the roster because of his stance on not standing for the national anthem.
It took them long enough, right? The NFL Players Association
to finally get behind it.
To finally get behind the player.
Yeah.
Them guys. I mean, if this was any other sport, baseball or NBA, the Players Association would have been behind the player 100%. Because you see a lot of cases, even when the player's wrong, the Players Association are right behind them. In this case, it took them so long just to.
But this seems kind of different because it's not really an actual infraction. Yeah. There's not a rule that they can really say that he violated and then test it. You actually have to prove collusion, which is a pretty high burden.
It's going to be tough, but I mean, just for him not being signed, there's like no other explanation for why he's.
Of course, we know he's not getting signed because of his stance in his Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, so.
I look at it this way, like
national anthem. I keep saying.
Look at all the teams that have it. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they literally sat in their locker room during the national anthem once, and nothing happened to them. So, like, if someone's gonna get punished, like, why doesn't everybody that does it get punished? Like, why not punish like a lot of players on the Steelers or something for not? There's one thing for not standing or anything, but it's another thing to not even like leave the locker room during it.
Yeah, and that's the thing because people they've been trying to push this agenda that kneeling before signing a player that's going to kneel is going to cause a media distraction or distraction to the team or a circus or something like that, which is not even the case because we've literally seen a team that won the Super Bowl. They took a hard stance on this with the national anthem. They kneeled, they spoke about it, and I believe a lot of the players that were free agents on that team were already signed by other teams. So I really would like to know an explanation besides that because there's no other explanation a team can make for not signing him, especially teams we know that need defensive players not signing him.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with the media circus that you know is going to happen if you hire and if you sign an Eric Reid or Colin Kaepernick. It's going to be like when you had Tebow. But this could hurt the bottom line. I mean, this goes to show, and I didn't say this, but that the NFL cares really more about profits than wins, which is true. You can't really debate that. Signing somebody like Eric Reid will alienate some people, and I'm not saying that this is right, but it will alienate some people, and then they won't watch the game, and then the numbers might go low. Yeah. So we're seeing how the NFL operates right now. In the Players Association, I think they have a tough task ahead of them to try to prove this, but I'm very interested to see where it goes. My solution, I think you just do the national anthem while the teams are in the locker room. Like they used to, and then bring them out after the national anthem. You don't know who's kneeling, you don't know who's standing. Everybody still gets to hear the national anthem, the audience gets to stand up. Yeah. So to me it just seems like a way to quash it. I don't see the NFL moving that direction, but I think it would just solve a lot of problems.
The only time they ever owners and league execs stood behind the players with this whole national anthem thing was after the remarks from the president. That's the only time they actually.
That was the catalyst, yes.
Yeah, that was the only time when he went on there at a rally and said what he said. That was the only time. Besides that, none of them. Nope.
Yeah, that was the spark. Definitely an interesting. We'll definitely follow it. I really still do want to see what Colin Kaepernick to get signed because I still think he's a great player and I like watching him play.
I don't think
it's going to happen.
His playing days are done.
I mean, he's still practicing and everything.
Yeah, he's still
at least he wants to come back. Like you can see him progressing and everything.
Yeah, but that, if they didn't sign him at this point or they didn't sign him like that, they're not going to do it.
It's been, what, 2-3 years now?
It's about a year.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Like, we'll say 2. And then in other news, there's a rule change, kickoff rule change.
Oh, another kickoff rule change, huh? Why don't you tell us about this one?
I was reading about that.
Yeah.
They're thinking of getting rid of kickoffs completely.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to get rid of it. They had discussion of it, but I think this one now, this rule change is going to eliminate, the head start.
Yeah.
That the players get during the kickoff. And this is just another way of slowly getting rid of the kickoff because the kickoff team, they can't have a head start or whatever, a 5-yard head start.
Which, that's really dumb, I feel like. It's like, it's been working all these years. Like, I don't see what's wrong. Yeah, there's been injuries, kickoff and everything, but, that's what happens in sport. People get injured, and, that's what backups are there for, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but, don't take away the whole thing. Or start making changes because you want less injuries. It's gonna happen no matter what you do.
Yeah, it's football.
I would just like to see, before making these rules, to actually do some kind of in-depth study to see, hey, is this gonna actually prevent people from getting concussions or injuries, or is this just the NFL trying to look like they're making changes to prevent injuries and concussions? Where I think it's the latter. They're just throwing out random rules that probably don't have any effect on safety, but they can say if there's any sort of lawsuit brought against them, they can say, oh, hey, look, we're changing this rule to make the game safer. Well, is it actually making the game safer? Where's the data? Where's the study? These are just random rules that some group of people sitting down together trying to make it seem it's a publicity stunt. It really is.
Definitely. And the thing is, the kickoff is probably one of the most exciting things in football.
Oh, yeah,
especially
of course.
when you see the guy bring it back 100 yards or 101 yards or whatever. That's one of the most exciting things in football. So I don't understand why they want to take that away. I think they just they're trying to make the game more boring or something.
When they moved the touchback line from 20 to 25, when that was a rule change, I was like, what kind of difference does this make? It's a 5-yard difference.
Right, it doesn't.
It's kind of, it's not going to prevent any injuries. Yeah. It's not going to, cause people not to do a touchback. It's just, apparently they want to change the way kickers kick. They want them to kick it shorter than, the touchdown line. And I'm like, why, though? I can rarely see a lot of people doing a touchback. The only times I really see people doing a touchback is when they really need to. Mm-hmm. But most of the time when I'm watching football, I see players take it out and run. They want to gain yards, no matter how many yards it is.
Yeah, it's a big part of the game. It's a big part of a team scheme, especially if you're a team that has great special teams. Kickoff, your kickoff return man, he could give you field advantage.
There's 3 aspects to the game. There's defense, offense, and special teams. It's a big, important part of it. Mm-hmm. Kickoff returns are a huge part of it.
And if those go away, what happens to special teams? They're only there for field goals now.
Yeah, and it might leave some guys off rosters. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. This is something we got to follow. They might get rid of field goals. Oh, God. Well, I did like that they kind of moved the extra point line back. That was one change I did like, because it was too automatic.
Yeah,
that makes things a little bit more drama.
And these kickers are just, anytime you miss it, we just want to pile on.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So that makes it more exciting. Okay, now let's get to something controversial. Again, the NFL, we have Matt Patricia was recently... in 1996, he was allegedly charged with, or he was charged with some sort of sexual assault. He was indicted by the grand jury. The case was dismissed and nothing happened. He went on to have careers at Syracuse, Amherst, the New England Patriots, without any of this being brought up. He comes to Detroit and some reporter digs this up, and now he's having to answer all of these questions about these allegations that were dismissed. And with this whole Me Too movement, it's one of those things where it's been a good movement. A lot has changed from this, but for me, and I'll let you guys talk first, but for me, this isn't one of those cases. This seems something where I believe Matt Patricia, and I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt here. What's your take? And
he also said it happened when he was 21, and it was spring break. And if anybody has ever been spring break while they was in college, there's a lot happens in spring break that just stays in spring break. We won't talk about it here, but so. And another thing, I don't want to, because the way we're talking about this, we don't want to make it seem like we're kind of brushing the Me Too movement aside.
No,
or just,
not at all.
Saying that, calling somebody a liar. But I would think the Lions would have known about this. This, when you do a job interview, things like this probably get brought up. So I'm sure the Lions or anybody that dealt with him, they knew about this, or he's spoken to them about this. And if it's gone so many years without it, ever being a problem, if he's addressed it, and if he was never found guilty, and he's saying his innocence, especially if he went to court and he was found innocent, this is something that happened. It didn't happen to him, so I think this shouldn't even be something that should have been brought up at this point in his life. If he's already dealt with it, and now just bringing it up is just going to bring more. He said this was like affected him. This affected him a lot in his life, and now bringing it up at this point, it's,
my opinion on this could totally change. But according to him, and we didn't hear this from the victim who came out and spoke. He's been a public figure for a long time. Mm-hmm. If we had heard this from the victim, I'd probably have a little bit different interpretation of it, where this has just come from a reporter doing digging. In good hiring practices, good HR will teach you don't ask about arrests or indictments. You ask about convictions in job interviews. Mm-hmm. That's what you ask for. Anything else is voluntary. And why would he volunteer something that was dismissed and that he believes and he says adamantly that he was innocent for? So I could see exactly why the Lions wouldn't know. You don't ask those things. You can ask about convictions. Mm-hmm. Sure, you can do some sort of background search and stuff like that, but it would have come up that it was dismissed.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I should have got to that too. As part of when people hire people, they do all the research they can about the person, and if the Lions didn't have any concerns or during the interview process they didn't feel the need to ask him about it because they did their own research about it, then what's the problem? Like, what is this reporter gaining from digging up this story or something? A story that's a non-story to me.
They always kind of want to challenge somebody's character. Steve, why don't you weigh on this? What do you think?
I feel like the only thing they're trying to do is just get their name thrown out there, because when someone makes a news report, you see their name who's reported by. Mm-hmm. I feel like they just want to be known for the person that's kind of bringing them down. Like you said, you feel like that it wasn't someone that asked it. It's just kind of it was someone was just digging. Someone's like, oh, a new coach, let's find something bad about him and then talk about it. That's what always happens. Someone has to find something bad about someone that's just new hired. And when he was with the Patriots, no one dug this up when he was signed as assistant coach or defensive coordinator.
Even when he was lower level starting up.
Why not dig then? Why dig now, 20-something years later, and kind of affect his he hasn't even started coaching yet. Yeah. And that's kind of worse for him too, I feel like. Mm-hmm. So I feel bad for what's happening to him. I hope they move by this and kind of drop it soon rather than later. Yeah. And he can get back on the right track.
Yeah, maybe they did dig it up and they found the same thing that what he said. It was thrown out.
And like you said before we wrap this up, I don't want to seem like we're undermining the Me Too movement. That's not what we're doing.
Which we're not.
And this just seems like a different case to me. I believe Matt Trisher he came out and adamantly denied it from all accounts. He's a great guy, stand-up guy, family man, and it sounds like to me he was the victim in this case. He said that it hurt him, being a young guy going through those, being innocent and being falsely accused. He sounds like the victim in this case. If something else comes out that is a different story, we hear from the victim, of course, then that changes the entire narrative. But as it stands now, the facts we have now, I think that we should move on from this.
One thing that grabbed my mind, though, when I was reading about this, apparently they had a letter that was given from the lawyer that the victim wrote saying, he wrote saying my victim is not comfortable with seeing the people that did this to him. So that kind of caught my mind. Oh. So I'm like, okay, if they're saying the lawyer wrote this, so could this be true or could this not be? Could it just be the reporter saying this, or could this actually come from the lawyer? They don't have evidence, enough evidence to say it did, but it kind of caught my mind a little bit.
Interesting. I didn't see that. Well, I do think there's more of the story to come out. Hopefully, it can end it. Let's get on to a totally different case.
Reuben Foster.
Let's get on to Reuben Foster, who's a totally different animal, a guy that's always been in trouble. Yeah. He's pleading not guilty. Mukala, why don't you tell us the latest on Reuben?
I mean, he pleaded not guilty to all the charges, domestic, the assault, and all that. But this guy, this guy has a history of just doing dumb stuff, and he's frequently put himself in positions of just doing dumb stuff. And he put himself in this position by assaulting his girlfriend. I don't know if they're still together, but this is my mind. Whenever I hear something like this, and then the female involved decides to, she doesn't want to talk. I think something happened, but she just doesn't want to, ruin this man's football career or whatever. But I'm pretty sure that he put his hands on her on numerous occasions, because this is the first time that this guy's been in trouble with the law for doing something dumb. And I mean, he pled guilty. Okay, so now we're going to see what happens in the court of law. But in my mind, this guy, he's just frequent with his dumb decisions and, his troubled ways. And I wouldn't want him on my team.
This kind of makes me mad, because you see this a lot with a lot of professional players, like athletes, like Ray Lewis, for instance, like what happened with him, Adrian Peterson. Like, I feel like a lot of professional players look at it like themselves, like, oh, I'm like a big star now, like I feel like I can do whatever I want, and then they do a lot of bad things, and then they don't realize there's consequences to those bad things. So that kind of makes me mad, because it's like you're giving a lot, like you're given so much. You gained a great opportunity that a lot of people wish they could have, and you're kind of just throwing it away for just to be dumb.
Yeah, I mean, he reminds me a lot of Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy was he was the worst. These guys, I mean, there's no place for these guys, and these are the serious issues that we need to focus on. Yeah. These really guys who have these repeat histories of domestic assault and things like that. I don't think we should be focusing on that.
I don't even like wasting our time talking about stuff like this, but
it makes the news. That's the headlines. Unfortunately, that's today's NFL. There are a lot of bad actors. The NFL is trying to clean this up. They're trying to have these new promotions and awareness campaigns, but it doesn't always work, because at the end of the day, like we said with the national anthem, they're more worried about making money than win. So all right, so let's cut to. Are you taking this one?
Yeah, we're going to Athletes Corner. We had Coach David Brown, head men's basketball coach of St. Mary's High. We had him on. He's being inducted into the St. Mary's Varsity Club. So we talked about that. Talked about the past basketball season, all that good stuff. So Athletes Corner, and then we're going to wrap up the show after. Welcome to another edition of Athletes Corner. Today we got another special guest, a state champion as a coach, 1,000-point club at St. Mary's. He's being inducted into the St. Mary's Varsity Club on Friday, May 11th. I have Coach David Brown, head men's basketball coach at St. Mary's. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm all right. Can't complain. How's everything going on with you? You got a lot going on.
Yeah, not bad. Things are going good.
Yeah, so, this Friday, May 11th, they're being inducted into the St. Mary's Varsity Club. Tell me a little about that.
Well, obviously it was a pleasant surprise and a great honor to be chosen into the Varsity Club this upcoming year, to be recognized as one of the better athletes that ever participate in sports at St. Mary's. So I was excited when I got the news back about a month and a half ago.
Okay. What, for those who don't know, what exactly is the Varsity Club?
I guess it's all former student athletes at St. Mary's that participated in athletics, that excelled in one or more sports.
And you were a member of the basketball team, a 1,000-point club. Does it kind of bring you back to when you played, just, for them honoring you? Does it give you the flashbacks of your playing days at St. Mary's?
I take a lot of pride in the years I played at St. Mary's, both basketball and football. We had a successful basketball program. Football wasn't as successful, but we had a lot of good players and a lot of great memories,
Yeah, and St. Mary's has been, through the years, it's been a pipeline for a lot of student athletes. They've excelled in the classroom and in the athletic part. So, what is it about St. Mary's that helps students just excel in both fields?
Well, I mean, within the last 15 years, like you said, St. Mary's has been one of the most predominant sports programs in the state. Whether it's boys or girls, different sports. I mean, I think they've won a state championship consecutively in one sport or another for 10 straight years. It's a small school, but we get a lot of good athletes from not only Lynn but the surrounding communities. So that helps obviously. Academically, again, small classroom, so that helps kids, focus a little bit better, and hopefully they can, get a good education and go on to college.
Yeah, and I know some of the players that you've had recently have also gone on to college, and excelled there. Just as a coach, how proud does that make you? How proud are you that just to know that your players are exceeding, well beyond their years from St. Mary's?
I mean, that's our number one priority at St. Mary's. Obviously we want to do well in athletics, but academics is the main focus. I've been there for 5 years, and I think I've had 8 or 9 seniors that have graduated at this point, and every one of them went on to a 4-year college. And some are playing sports and some aren't, but the biggest thing is making sure they're continuing their education.
Yeah, definitely. That's always a big key because people use athletics for their education. Kind of helps them balance. How was that for you? How did that help you balance? When you finished at St. Mary's and went on.
No, I mean athletics was definitely a big part of my education. It kept me motivated in the classroom. Like I knew if I didn't do my schoolwork, I wasn't going to be able to participate in athletics. So at St. Mary's, obviously, I did what I had to do academically to be able to play sports, basketball and football. And then when I went on to college and played Division III basketball, that was a motivation of knowing that I wasn't going to be a professional athlete, but also I could use that avenue to meet people and hopefully obtain a job down the road.
Yeah, and you've taken over the helm at St. Mary's basketball for, you said, the past 5 years. You've been coach. How long were you with the program before you became the head coach?
Well, right out of college, I was an assistant coach for a few years. Back in 97, 98, I think I was 3 or 4 years as an assistant coach. Then I became an assistant coach at Winthrop High School and the head coach there for 10 years. Okay. Stepped down for a year in 2012, and then I took over at St. Mary's in 2013.
And you guys won a state championship. Most recently, was that 2014 or?
2016.
2016.
Yes.
Yeah, and you guys you've had a deep run in the state tournament the past couple years. So what was it about this past season? You guys had that deep run, but you came up just a game short of playing in the Garden. What was that experience like for the players?
I mean, it was a great experience for the players. For the last 3 years, we played in the Garden game back-to-back years. We won the Eastern Mass Championship for the last two previous years. This year we lost in the North Finals, but it was a great experience for some of the guys that were stepping up in a new role. So we didn't have too many returning players from the previous teams other than Steven Pafume and Jalen Echeverria that got quality playing time. So next year we have four starters returning, which should be a productive season for us. But obviously, just because we were good last year doesn't mean we're going to be good next year. So we have to try to get better every year.
And also you had, some young players on there, freshmen, sophomores. So, now they have to take the next step, in order for you guys to help the team next season. What are some of the things that you kind of told them they should focus on during the off season?
Well, obviously, they're all going to try to get bigger and stronger, get mentally tougher. One thing at St. Mary's is, it's tough, but you're not judged by success over there by winning league championships or winning city championships. St. Mary's is known for winning state championships. So if you don't win the state championship, it's sad to say, but it wasn't a successful season as far as the outsiders looking in. But we won 19 games last year. We were league champs. And I think the kids got a lot of experience out of that, and they got some motivation. Obviously, losing the last game of the season in the North Finals, so hopefully we can get better in the off season.
And how many seniors are you losing, or not? Are graduating from?
We have 3 seniors graduating. 2 of them played significant minutes. Another one was a role player. But again, we have 4 returning starters. So we're hoping that we can be pretty successful next season. Yeah,
definitely. You definitely got, you guys got a good thing going. It's just, what amazes me to see is, some schools they'll have like a stint where they're productive, they have runs, and then they'll fall off. But you guys, as you said, for like the past 15 years, it's just been dominance throughout in each sport: football, basketball, baseball, soccer, lacrosse. Right. That's something that I find very interesting about St. Mary's, just the dominance that you guys are doing. Like, what's the mental for that?
Well, I mean, obviously, we know that because of the success we had in the past, we have a target on our backs. So we know we have to be prepared going in every night for our opponent. Obviously, I think we have a big advantage being a private school where we attract kids from all over the North Shore, PBD, Beverly. Obviously, Lynn, you got Saugus, we have a Linfield gentleman on our team. So obviously we have an advantage there, but at the same time, we're a small school, so we only have 166 boys, I believe, in the school.
Oh, okay.
Somewhat like in the high school at the time. So I mean, we don't have 100 boys trying out for basketball either. So we have to every boy that steps on the court has to be ready to play.
Yeah, that's really much what separates you guys from all the public schools in Lynn, because you guys, in the public schools, there's a lot of guys trying out, so you guys just have the slim pickings. And just lastly, this whole varsity club, when's the ceremony taking place, and what's usually entailed in that ceremony?
Well, the ceremony is May 11th. It's held in the gymnasium, and I believe they'll just have a profile done on everyone who's being inducted, maybe a small video, and they give out. I'm not sure what each person receives in the recognition, but. Yeah, they do a good job of it, though. Yeah, that's definitely a big accomplishment for you, just knowing that you've had such a St. Mary's has been a big part of your life, and you've given back, and they've also given back to you. It's just good to see that they're recognizing the great athletes that came through the school and just doing great things for the community and for the school. So, I mean, lastly, before we get out of here, anything you want to say to the Lynn community about what you guys got going on? Obviously, I took great pride in deciding to go to St. Mary's in 1985. I had a pretty successful career there as a player. We're doing pretty good as a coach. I take pride in seeing my name on the wall there as a 1,000-point scorer, and I'll take a lot of pride in seeing my name on the varsity list as you walk into the gymnasium. Something my son will see when he's playing it over the next 4 or 5 years. My daughter goes there as well. Yeah. So and then also my players, I can tell my players stories nonstop, but now maybe now they respect him and believe him.
Yeah, they think they can take you too.
None of them. They still have not yet. Maybe when I turn 50.
All right, guys. I want to thank David Brown once again for coming and chatting with us. He will be inducted into the St. Mary's Varsity Club Friday, May 11th. Congratulations to him and all his accomplishments. Hopefully he'll be back with some of his players. We can talk about basketball and all the great stuff he got going on. So, come back anytime whenever you feel like.
Definitely. Maybe before the season next year we can have a few guys come in.
Awesome. All right. All right, you guys have been watching Athletes Corner. We're going to toss it back to Brian.
All right, another great Athletes Corner. Very good job, Mukala. He's going to put his stunner shades back on. Jeez, it's not even that bright in here, guys. He is a diva. Pedro is right on that one. All right, let's finish this up. We're going to finish this up with some boxing and some baseball. Let's get to boxing first. We had Triple G versus, I believe it's Vans Matarosian.
I'm just going to call him another guy.
Poor Armenian
Poor
dude.
Guy.
I've seen him fight before. He was game. That's Triple G, Gennady Golovkin right there.
Yeah.
But he was just... He's just a beast, and Matarosian, God bless him for taking this fight on such a short notice. This should have been Canelo Alvarez in Triple G, but as we've discussed before in the show, Alvarez let us all down and was tested positive for PEDs that he said contaminated meat, which happens to a lot of Mexican boxers for some reason. Yeah, I'm wondering if they're purposely contaminating that meat. Anyway, it was a second-round knockout, very brutal. We don't have the video, but if you like knockouts, I would suggest you check it out.
We try to save y'all from,
the carnage. The carnage. It was some good carnage in that one.
So what does this do for Canelo, for the Canelo fight? Because Triple G said if they're gonna fight again, Canelo has to get tested like randomly each time. Weeks before.
It's still gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean, Canelo lost a lot of money just by not being in this fight. It's still the biggest fight to be made in boxing right now, the two biggest names. So it's gonna happen. It should happen sooner rather than later. Definitely. And I think it's gonna motivate Golovkin even more. I think he did win the first match. A lot of people did. Canelo's got a great chin, but maybe a knockout this time with all this anger. And I think that we got to move on to baseball. We got some Sox Yankees. You want to take this one, Steve?
Take this one.
I love the Red Sox and Yankees rivalries. Mm-hmm. Remember first series this year, I was watching it, and I changed the channel for a sec because all my friends wanted me to change channel. I missed a brawl. Right when I turned back, I saw the replay and I was like, thank God. I was like so happy I at least got to witness like part of it.
You didn't get to see it live, but you got to see it a few seconds late. Okay, that's still fun.
I think we have some videos of Red Sox Yankees fighting.
Oh, we do. Let's throw it
somewhere back there. That's the only reason.
It's probably not loaded in, but
it's loaded in. I put it in there. But that's the only reason I put this up because I want to go back there. We go right there to the Red Sox.
I love seeing like players do that. Though.
This was hilarious. Like.
You keep replaying it over and over again. I like it.
That's funny right there. That hit right there. That started a whole brawl. And
brawls are getting more and more common in baseball.
You know my favorite.
It's awesome.
They really
though.
are.
I feel like because you get to see the whole benches clear and everything, and like you don't see that. Like when people like fight, it's just two people going at it. But like this is a whole bench, and then like when they start fighting, all the managers start fighting and everything, and I'm like, this is like very entertaining.
My favorite is when Pedro Martinez tossed the grandpa to the
that was hard to watch. I felt bad for that guy. I felt bad for that guy, though.
He wanted to fight him, though.
But he's an old man. Come on now. I'd like to see this brought into basketball a little bit. Get a little bit going a little bit. Why not?
Maybe if it was like late 80s, 90s and stuff.
Bring it back.
We see Jeff Van Gundy holding on to Alonzo Mourning's leg after getting punched in the
and then like Shaq and Charles Barkley, we were just talking about before that.
We got the whole stadium fighting. Like I remember.
Who went up into the stands? Ron
Artest, Steven Jackson.
Yeah, there you go. That was fun.
Woo.
I love those kinds of fights. Like I hate like boring fights where like nowadays you see like people try to fight, everybody pulls off. Back then, everyone starts fighting. It's like, all right, back it up. Like, we just like let you guys go at it to see who wins.
So it seems like our baseball talk turned into extended boxing talk, actually. And we have 1 minute left, so it's time for the longest outro in TV history.
Yeah,
Mukala, take it away.
We're getting ready to get up out of here, but before we go, I just want to say, people, stop calling the cops on people that don't look like you, who are just minding their business, i.e. sleeping in a dorm room, i.e. trying to eat at Waffle House,
Starbucks.
i.e. moving into a new apartment, i.e. waiting for somebody at Starbucks. Stop calling the cops on these people who aren't committing crimes. There are real people out there committing crimes. When you call the cops on these incidents, you're not only wasting people's time, you're wasting the cops' time because they could be out there actually looking for real crimes. So please, stop calling the cops on people that don't look like you because you have some fear of them, all right? That's all. And with that note, I am Mukala Kabongo, the Oracle. We're getting up out of here. Brian Dorrington, the Canadian lover. My man, Steven, he's here. He'll be back next week. You guys have a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day. I love you, Mom.
Oh, Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. She doesn't watch, but hey, Happy Mother's Day.
Is she coming tonight?
I don't know. Happening?
I think my mom's coming.
Okay.